Hello, welcome to another episode of the Shakedown podcast. With me, my comrades, my brethren, my right honourable colleagues, the one that they call Sir Baxty and Shezinho, aka the A side. And two, we have ourselves a special guest, a legend of F1 YouTube, one of the go-tos to have ever goated, the one that they call Josh Revel. How are we doing, chaps? It doesn't matter how you're doing because we've got ourselves a special top 5 episodes. We're going to agree and argue and debate over the top 5 most emotional moments in F1 history ever. All of the guys on your panel will outline their top 5 in order, after which we'll try and argue with a view to come to a consensus, agreeing therefore a definitive list, the Bible, that will ultimately outline the top 5 emotional moments in F1 history ever. Sir Baxty, you are up first, sir. Do you want to give me your top 5?
Yeah, so I'll go 5-1. I just want to preface this by saying that I've kind of done it. I've kind of thought of a certain emotion that it brings out in me, and I've gone for the happier side. There is some that where it could be contrasting. That will hint as to something I might drop near the top of the list. But definitely these are sort of happy emotions. I know you could go sad emotions, but for me this is happy.
No play.
So number 5, I've gone Damon 96 winning the title because
Oof.
every time I watch that, it's not just for the fact that Damon won the title. I mean, I was very young when it happened, so this is the only one that I didn't see live. But every time I watch it, it's not just for him following in his father's footsteps and winning a title. It's not him putting right what happened in '94. It's Murray's commentary as well. You know, the emotion that Murray has, and I've got to stop because I've got a lump in my throat.
Oof.
You just can't help but tear up when you see that because it meant so much to Murray as well because of everything that he'd been following Damon for so long in his biking days and everything else. So just a beautiful moment there. Number 4, I'm going something really recent here, and I've actually gone for Charles Leclerc winning in Monaco this year, simply because, and again, it's made by the commentary. If you listen to Alex Jakes' commentary and the way he talks
It's
about it and the
incredible.
way that he just,
No, he
you know,
builds it
he
nicely,
builds
but
it, and when he talks about his dad and
builds it.
that whole story, and if you're familiar with the Charles Leclerc story, his bad luck at Monaco, certainly during his Ferrari days, you think, yeah, this is something really special. What an amazing moment this is, and also his scream as he crossed the line as well. It was
What a,
that.
what about Baxter if you're watching Sky Sports though? It doesn't bang as hard.
I thought Crofty was okay actually. I mean, it was certainly better than his Lando Norris line. I'll put it that way
Oh
in
my
Miami.
gosh.
Number 3, Braun '09. The whole story, but particularly Interlagos when Jensen won the title and they won the constructors, because that whole year is just crazy. And it's personal for me because it's what really endeared Team Brackley to me. And I've always had been with them since then, even when they morphed into Mercedes and had Rosberg and Schumacher, and then when Lewis went there as well, and then the journey you go on from there. But that moment when Jensen crossed the line, winning the title, fulfilling his dream, a dream that he probably thought would never happen because of Honda pulling out, and all of a sudden there he is, catapulted into this championship, and it was, it was at the formative part of my F1 fandom as well. So it was kind of a story other than Lewis that really grabbed me. And I loved every second of that 2009 season. Even when things were bad for Braun, I was still just invested and determined to see them win, and to see it finally come off in Interlagos was amazing. Number 2, Lewis's 7th title in 2020. Because I think even though in 2020 we all knew that he was going to win the title, it was obvious from race 1 that he was going to do it. Um, yeah, that W11 was an absolute thing of beauty. What they wouldn't give for a car like that right now.
Hmm.
Um, it was the way in which he won the title in such horrible conditions on a newly resurfaced slick track. Whenever Bottas is doing ballerina impressions about 10 times during that same Grand Prix. Lewis just mastered the conditions, knew exactly the right moves at the right time, And then again, like the pressure valve being released when he won the title, and just the inspirational message that he put for all the kids out there that
Mm.
dream the impossible. You know, you can do it. And it was beautiful. It was just such a beautiful moment, a beautiful drive leading to a championship that yes, we knew was coming, but and also it was the records he'd broken in that year as well, breaking Michael's win record as well. It was just yeah, amazing. And my number one moment is the contrasting emotions moment. Lewis's first title in 2008, but also the flip side of that with Felipe. You know, it was just that whole race was bonkers. Bonkers. You know, it was the dual emotion of Ferrari thinking they'd won it, and then you got McLaren going absolutely bonkers at the same time. Felipe's incredibly graceful reaction to losing in such heartbreaking fashion, the way he proudly celebrated his win in front of his home crowd. Shame that didn't carry on at the current moment. But it was that whole day, that whole race was just chaos personified. And you know, you think the title's gone, you think, oh my God, he's lost it again. And then the is that Glock, and then the pure cute confusion and the chaos. But I think the emotions on both sides are what make that one of the most chaotic finales ever in Formula One. And that for me is the most emotional moment, not just because Lewis won his first title in the most bizarre circumstances, but it was the flip side with Felipe as well. You cannot ignore the impact of Felipe in that moment. And that's my top five.
Strong list, I don't hate it. Natural inclination to play contrarian and devil's advocate and pick apart some of those, but I think a lot of those might make it through to the final top five. Chezinho, sir, I'm coming to you next. 5-1. Border favor.
So interesting. I think my number five is going to be your number one, actually. Uh, just because there's, I think my top five is a little bit more of a mix. Most of them are pretty happy, but there is at least one that I think has to be in there because it just has to be in there. But number five is that Glock. Um, and actually, I agree with Baxty. I think the most emotional part of that was the post-race interview, where Felipe said, "I know how to win and I know how to lose." And every time I hear that, every time I see it, I can't. It's just too much. Um, but then to have the is that Glock? I think it is. But and Lewis coming over the line and sort of denying Felipe after he's been champion for a lap. Yeah, I mean it's just sporting drama that I think you can beat, because I think we beat it again only a few years ago, but maybe for the wrong reasons. I thought that was amazing. Um, for me, number four. Yeah, four. Can I still do this? Yes, I can. So number four is Raikkonen winning the Japanese Grand Prix in 2005. Um, just that was the story, the way the championship had been set up, and then that for me felt like the moment at which the torch was passed from the Schumacher era to the Alonso Raikkonen era, and then and the way it was done, and the emotion that you saw from Raikkonen and Ron Dennis afterwards. I've watched that race back so many times, and it gets me every single time. Pure joy from just watching one of the greatest races of all time. That's number four. And I mean, number three is Schumacher winning the 2000 Japanese Grand Prix and his first world title for Ferrari. It sounds fairly personal for me. I got into Formula One, um, and Schumacher was my guy for quite a lot of the late 90s. Watching that story of him turning up at Ferrari in 1996 and the near misses, the controversy, the two seasons where he couldn't quite do it. When he broke his leg in 1999, and then the absolute outpouring of emotion, him tearing up and crying his radio message back in the car when he's won it on the final lap. Again, I can't ever forget that. That for me is formative in why I love Formula One. So that has to be in there for me. Second one up, number 2 is Baxty, same as you. Lewis 2020. Just the fact that they started that race so far back, both Mercedes, in such a dominant year. Lewis started what, 9th or something, and then to come back through all of the travails of that race and win it, and then to have that, to lose it in his voice on the final lap as he crosses the line, and then to have the wherewithal to say that message. It was so Lewis and so in that year, that the thing that the world needed to hear in that year, that guy doing it was, again, I can't hear that and not break down. But the top one, look, this for me has to be in there, nailed on. The most emotional thing I have ever seen in Formula One is Senna 1994.
100%.
Imola. It has to be there. That is the definition of emotional. The world's greatest driver, fighting with everything he has to wrest back control of a championship in a car that just will not listen to him. And yeah, I mean, how many montages have we had to watch? How many times have we seen those images? How many times have we watched the movie? How many times have we listened to Murray Walker afterwards, with that somber expression talking about it? I think that is a moment that's not just etched in every Formula One fan's minds and hearts. It's something that is that resonates, I think, with the whole world. And it transcends our sport. So for me, it has to be in there.
Oof. Preach, sir. I don't hate that. Again, the contrarian in me wants to argue. We'll get to that, I'm sure, at some point. Mr. Revel, can you state your case, sir?
I made a list listening to there's definitely been more than 5, and there's definitely stuff that we're gonna miss. I'm on the same philosophy as Baxty here when it comes to, just happy moments, happy vibes. Let's forget about all the death, all that kind of stuff. So Imola, that was very dark, as was Suzuka 2014. I think for a lot of us, like, Suzuka 2014 is still very raw in our minds, especially with like seeing the ascension of Jules and like knowing what we lost, with him. I guess I don't want to call them honorable mentions, but in terms of the actual top 5 that I got here, again, same set of philosophy as Baxty. I'll go in order of, chronologically, I guess. First one, Interlagos 1991, Senna's first home win, and doing it in 6th gear and wrestling with what would effectively have been like trying to steer a concrete mixer. Year after year of trying to win at his home Grand Prix, never doing it, then doing it there in the last great Colosseum of racing. Just the huge outpouring of emotion after the race, not just from Ayrton, but the fans as well. Just, everything about that. Could not have asked for a more memorable first home win for Ayrton. And it's still talked about today. Like, just how it was just this mass sort of outpouring of emotion from everyone at the venue. It was just incredible. Even Ron Dennis, you saw him, in the pits after the fact. So yeah, I'd have to put that in there. Obviously 1996 Suzuka number 2. I'll put that. Yes, it was exceedingly, British, nationalistic stuff going on from Murray there, but there is a story behind that. Given Damon had to effectively, you know, support the family after Graham, crashed his plane. So there was a lot of pain and hardship in the years in between, that happening and when Damon finally got to Formula One, So, and then got there, was in a crappy Brabham, got a chance with Williams, found his way to a championship winning car, lost it when Schumi refused to give him any amount of real estate. Then 2 years later, he finally wins it, amongst a rapid Jacques Villeneuve who almost took it away from him. So it was quite a journey to get there. So it's not just it's the commentary. Yeah, it helps, but when you see the story behind it, it's just like there's a reason why Murray was getting so emotional talking about it. So yeah, it has to be there. The next one, what have I got? Jesus. Interlagos 2008. And we're doing a lot of the same things here, but I think there's reason for that. Like, I remember that race. Like it was before school because this was, the Grand Prix are well timed when it comes to Brazil and America. And I was unashamedly wanting Lewis to win that year. And I think, like, he was stuck behind Seb. And by the time, I don't remember what corner it is, but it's that sort of second right-hander after the sweeper. But anyway, there's only a handful of corners to go. I was like, damn it, he's gonna lose this. And then the whole Zach Glock thing, and it was just like, yes, outpouring of emotion then. But yeah, again, it's getting back to the Brazilian fans were going nuts for Felipe. And that was after the win. Then Lewis crossed the line. There was that initial confusion of, Felipe's got the title, blah, blah, blah. Then it turns out that he didn't. And then you just had those contrasting emotions at the time. Adulation for McLaren and Lewis, and just utter heartbreak for Felipe, who, took it in sort of, great stead. It's just like, that's, you got to respect the sort of humility that he showed then in that moment, like where he sort of was able to take it on the chin. So just it was just extremely emotional day, extremely intense day. It was just it's something that you can go back to so long as you're not a Felipe fan. It's just one of those great Grand Prix, great great finale, and it's why, again, Interlagos should be the permanent finale, to Formula One. Because aside from being a great racetrack, it's a damn amphitheater, So the crowd's right on top of you, and like you hear everything. So, yeah, I know they won't do it because they're chasing the almighty dollar, but in my opinion, I reckon it should be a case of permanent home, Interlagos. 2008 is a very good reason why. Number 4, Monza 2020 and Pierre Gasly's win. Apart from winning in a car that shouldn't have won, it was a year after we lost Antoine Hubert, and we know how close he was, with Pierre. And 2019, yeah, Antoine was lost to us, but also Pierre had been dropped from Red Bull back into the AlphaTauri team. So it was, yeah, a rough period of time for him. And then to get that just the most randomest of wins, he still had to work for it. And he still did a damn good job holding off Carlos in the McLaren. And yeah, he did it. And you just heard that outpouring of emotions after the fact. And it's just like, yeah, like it's it's quite a journey. Like no matter where he goes from here on in, he's gonna have that win attached to him. And that's invaluable to a driver's stock. Doesn't matter what happens after the fact. If you're a Grand Prix winner, that does something to your CV. Wow. At the same time, Maldonado did win, but like it's just the circumstances behind it, the story behind it. It's still very, very raw on the emotions, and especially a venue that for a couple of years before and since, 2019 when Charles won there, 2021 when Honey Badger got his last win there. Yeah, Monza seemed to bring up a lot of feels at that time, didn't it? So yeah, that's my number 4. Number 5, Silverstone this year with Lewis winning in front of the crowd. I'll be honest, like I fell asleep with 5 laps to go.
Oh my gosh.
But come on, it was like 3 a.m. but yeah, I mean, taking aside what happened at the end of 2021, which I personally don't want to talk about because there's no right answer to that. You're always going to piss off half the audience when you talk about that. It's always an elephant's foot. I don't really want to touch it. And it's not, well, it is kind of pertinent to the story. But the point is, from 2022 onwards, there was this air of Lewis's redemption story, and it just wasn't happening. The car was a kettle of dog food, never did what it wanted to do, was recalcitrant, just always wanted to step out on times where, it shouldn't have. There was also the added aspect of the Jude Law clone becoming pretty damn good, and at times his form was better than Lewis's. And that's not necessarily a slight at Lewis. It's a case of, with the greatest of respect to Valtteri had no mongrel. George at least had a little bit more than he did, and was starting to challenge Lewis for the first time since, she's probably a bit more so even than the Jensen days in 2011. So the point is that even we were all sort of like, has Lewis even got that will to fight anymore? As much as you would think, surely not. But even he was feeling it. Even he didn't know if he truly had it. He was questioning himself, and at that point, that could be the downfall of an athlete, no matter what sport you're in. Then that win happened. You heard just the adulation from all around the circuit, from all these people that loved the guy, but also knew his story and how it got to that moment. And then for Lewis himself, just seeing after the race, and especially with his father, Anthony, it's just like, yeah, this is his moment. Doesn't matter who you are. You can't just but help feel the utmost, pure joy for the guy, and just knowing that he's back. This freaking guy's back, and that's what we want to see. Not like this Interlagos weekend where it was pretty goddamn horrible. But it's it's those feel good moments in Formula One that you love to see because it's why we love sports. And yeah, just after almost 3 entire years of just pain of not getting the dub, which felt so weird, just like this isn't normal. We go every year, Lewis sort of winning, and we go this long and he hasn't won a race, and then he gets to that moment and that specific track in front of that specific crowd where he became the undisputed king of Silverstone. And yeah, so I understand some people won't agree with all the picks that I did, but I guess there have been quite a lot of moments, in Formula One. Some may even point toward Luca Baldo in 1999, where he missed out on fourth place in a Minardi, and just seeing him cry by the side of the road.
True.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, I guess, but the fact that we can delve into so many of these things is why we're so attracted to what is such a chronically unfair sport.
Mate, just a bit. Very, very well said, sir. Let me rattle through mine. I've got a couple worthy mentions. I really want to put Damo 1994 Adelaide on mine because I'm not sure about any event in F1 I've felt more emotional. I'll be honest with you. Anyway, let's let Damon 94 worthy mention. Lewis 2014 worthy mention again. A bit, you guys heard me talk about this. Like for the doubt about Lewis's career, about his potentially being one of unfulfilled potential between 2008 and 2014, that just felt like a vindication moment for me as a Lewis Hamilton fan, when all of the British press were questioning that dude's life choices and whether he was ever going to deliver on his potential. Senna 94 worthy mention. Again, I think I was too young at the time to even watching it back. It was kind of like a surreal moment. The emotion didn't really kick into me, especially you just thought he was going to be okay, right? It's only afterwards when Senna 94 kind of the story plays out and you realise that Senna sadly, tragically perished. And then Sebastian in 2012, if only because I was desperate for Fernando Alonso to get what was coming to him that year. And the finale was just chaos. And then the fact that Seb somehow is driving, we learned that he's driving a Transformers car that even though he's crashed it, just all of a sudden becomes quicker. And then you got the interchange with Schumacher, and then that was all chaos. But again, not fantastic memories for me. My 5. Niki Lauda in 76. Again, I didn't live through it, but watching it back and the fact that 40 days later he was at the Italian Grand Prix driving with his balaclava like struggling from the, like almost stuck onto his face skin, still wounded and bleeding. The bravery, the levels, the fact that in the end he went on to win the championship and ultimately drew a line in the sand and said, this is too dangerous. I thought the same about the Nordschleife, and I continued to participate on the back of the expectations and peer pressure and the stewards not listening to him, and etc. etc. Niki 76 got to be on the list, I think. 2016 Abu Dhabi, Nico Rosberg. Again, it's the story arc, the fact that he'd given so much, put so much into that season to overcome the natural talent deficit that was the comparison between him and his teammate Sir Lewis. The one time he was ever able to beat Sir Lewis over their whole career, which they spent most of it together, racing in the same formula, feeder formula, was this one. And I don't know, the emotion, although I thought that there was subplots that Lewis wasn't necessarily given the best machine of the two, but again, reliability issues, that's still, again, looking back in particular, I don't know, I think it's a moment. 2008, but not for your guys. Is that Glock is special, but I think for me, what endures is the changing of the demeanour and countenance of the Ferrari bods, that they think they've won, only to find out 20-30 seconds later that their guy isn't the winner of the championship. And that for me is just something that I don't think we'll ever see again in F1. It was just really, really unique and really evocative as far as a moment. Abu Dhabi 21, that none of you guys on the panel have mentioned, this is bonkers chat for so many reasons. Max and his dad hugging, Anthony and his son hugging afterwards, the final lap, the circumstance, the friction and everything, mate, rolled into one. You can pick any one of those, and I think that any one of those should be on the has to be on our consensus top 5. And your final one, I've got 2 to pick from here, and I'm not sure, I'll be honest with you. Josh has said Lewis Silverstone 2024. Yeah, it's big. I'm picking from 2 moments that made me cry. Tears of hay fever. So it's either Lewis at Silverstone 2024 or Sebastian driving Senna's MP4-8 this year at Imola with the Brazilian flag in one hand and the Austrian flag in the other. How can I pick between those 2 chaps? It's too hard. Look, I'll go Feels criminal not to put the Sebastian Vettel one. Yeah, I'm going to go Seb. I cried lots of tears at Lewis in Silverstone for all of the aforementioned reasons that Josh put forth. But the Seb moment, mate, drawing for both the Brazilian flag in one hand and then the Austrian flag in it. No, I cannot cope, chaps. Right, we've got to get some consensus now. Argument time. We have 3 already in the top 5, but we've got to do consensus, top 5, and then an order. Lewis in 2008 has to go in there because a couple of us have picked that. Lewis 2020 got to go in there. Silverstone 24, Josh has got. What are we saying, chaps? Silverstone 24. Shez agrees.
Yeah, I'd definitely take out Suzuka 2005 for that one.
Yeah, okay. What you saying, Baxter?
I'd take one of mine out for that. Absolutely. I mean, I loved that moment so much. I made a Titanic edit of it, so it was close to getting in my top 5.
It was levels. All right, so we'll agree Silverstone 2024. Have anybody got a personal one that you want to vouch for? We've got 2 spots in the top 24, top 5 even. I would.
A few of us said Damon 96. I think there's argument for that going in. I don't know how you.
Oh, so,
yeah, I mentioned Damon 96. Yeah.
There, okay, so 2 of us have got that. Let's put Damon in 96. Not Damon 94 though, chaps. Not more emotional. Damon 94 was chaos. Adelaide, mate. All right, let's go Damon 96 for an easy life, and then we got one more. Pitch me, Shez, on one of yours, chap. Which one of your 5? Lewis 2008, Kimi 05, Schumacher.
Well, Lewis 2008 is already in there, isn't it?
Oh yeah, bang. Lewis 2020. That's already in there, and then Senna 94. You're going to pitch me on 94, right?
I am, because I get that. I get that emotion is meant to be, happy. We're supposed to get those feel good moments that you guys are talking about, but this was such an era defining moment, right? It's just I can't think of the 90s. I can't without thinking about that moment and what we lost and what not just Senna's immediate career afterwards, not just the career that he could have had after Formula One, but like the bants that we could have heard now between him and Michael Schumacher, like also now injured, but being able to, we've lost the ability now to hear Senna, Schumacher, and Prost all sitting in a room arguing about their most emotional moments and what their greatest fights were like. Like that's all stuff that's lost to history because of that one thing that happened in 1994, and it's a pivotal. Like I'm getting emotional even thinking about it now. It's like it's such a pivotal moment in my personal F1 journey as well. Like I still remember sitting there with my dad on that afternoon and him looking at CFAX and then bringing up the news as we went. It's just like etched into me. I can't.
You've got to have Senna's death in there. I think because I mean, I was only 2 or 3 when it happened, but it's a death that still hangs over the sport even to this day. Yeah, and a lot of the drivers on the grid at the moment were not born when he died, but they still feel it, even though they weren't born when it happened. So, because it was such a titanic figure of the sport, I think we've got to have it in. I know Josh and I have gone for both, happy emotions, but there's also that balance in there that F1, there is the tragedy that goes with it.
Cameron, I'd also argue that your number 1, right? Your Sebastian Vettel with the MP48 at Imola, that has impact because of 1994. So I feel like I'm still honouring your pick by putting
Lewis
that one
at
in
Interlagos this weekend.
this year. Yeah, those were emotional moments because of that root moment.
I mean, you can't go back to Imola anymore without thinking of that Grand Prix, of that moment. Like, it's and the whole sort of mystique of the place is in large part down to that accident. And sure, like PK and Berger were almost killed at the same corner
yes,
in
they were.
similar circumstances, But, you know, the fact that a dude who is lauded as one of, if not the greatest driver of all time, could be killed in what many thought was a fairly innocuous accident compared to what normally would transpire, just sort of just sent everyone into a shock. I mean, that weekend was just airy, you know, with Rubinho almost dying when he stopped in an instant down at that stupid chicane they had at the in Sector 3. Then Roland Ratzenberger died, and there was talk of, do we even race? And just, yeah, there are some weekends in racing that just have that airy feeling with them. That definitely had it. Like, it's one of those race weekends that sort of hangs like a black cloud over the history of the sport. And like, yeah, like just the changes that came after it, like in terms of safety and tracks and cars, everything. There was no bigger catalyst for change in the history of the sport even than that moment where we lost one of the most iconic drivers in the history of the sport, and obviously the state funeral that happened afterwards, the 3 days of mourning, just everything. Like, yeah, as somber as this is, and I could tell this really sprited the chat up. Like, genuinely, if we're going to talk about what brings out the most visceral emotions and what really sort of I guess dumped the sport on its ass in terms of, you know, how it made people feel, then yeah, it's hard to top that one. So I think it is pertinent that you got to put Imola 94 on there.
I don't hate it, Josh. I concur. I yield. However, I'm going to pitch you guys on. Okay, so our list, for the avoidance of doubt: Lewis 2008, Lewis 2020, Lewis 2024. Is this like a Lewis Hamilton special? What's going on here?
Oh, your viewers are going to love it, mate.
Do you see where we're going here, Baxty? You'd never know that we're all Lewis fans in this forum. Damon 96.
He just finds himself in these circumstances.
British bias.
Like a moth to a flame. Here's what I'm going to pitch you on, guys. There's a soft, vulnerable underbelly to this top 5 list as far as a consensus, and that is Damon 96. Let me pitch you on this. There is no way that I can keep my F1 pimp card if I don't argue for Abu Dhabi 21 being a more emotional moment than Damon Hill in 96. You lot are having an absolute giraffe, chaps. Nobody's going to tell me that Abu Dhabi 2021, what that meant, the whole season, the culmination that was that moment, the two fathers hugging their two sons with whom they'd worked towards that moment all of their bloody lives, the outpouring of emotion, the controversial settings, the polemic, everything that went on in Abu Dhabi 2021 is more than Damon Hill in 1996 and Murray just saying he's got to pause for a minute whilst he holds back the tears. True or false, gents? I'm pitching you on Abu Dhabi 21 to supersede Damon 1996 as far as our top 5 list. Please concur.
I'm going to put my hat in the ring right now and say I fully agree with Cameron. Like,
I mean, bloody Nora. What
yeah, I mean, as lumpy as my throat is. Oops! Look, crikey! Josh fell off his chair.
No, Josh is hiding because he disagrees. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, as lumpy as my throat is, and I'm not getting into the controversy of it, but the raw emotion that came out from the drivers and the fans, and the level of emotion that still hangs on that today, means that, I mean, it has to be in there. Has to.
1000%. Mr. Revel, Sir Baxty, do you both concur?
No,
I do. I do.
Let's go, Josh.
But
That's
it's such an elephant's foot in terms of toxicity, that moment. Like, I don't like talking about it because it's sort of one of those things where you can never be right with the answer,
No.
put it that way. But if whether or not certain things were right in that race, talking if we're talking about the emotion that it sort of dragged out of all of us, I guess, because it doesn't matter what side of the fence you sat on with regards to the outcome, whatever side you're on, it brought out a pretty damn big emotion, put it that way.
1000%.
So, yeah, there's that, and also again, I think it's just that moment after the race between the
Mate.
father and the sons. It's just like,
Mate.
yeah, that the journey from the karting tracks to those moments, like, yeah,
It's too much.
yeah. So I mean, I would agree
bang.
to an extent.
Wow,
Yeah,
yourself with
but it's one of those things where it's just like, okay, I'm going to run and hide now.
Right, I think we've got consensus. There was another challenge that I wanted to make, but it might be a bit. No, for an easy life, I think we've got ourselves a list. We just need an order, chaps. Lewis 2008, Lewis 2020, Silverstone 24, Abu Dhabi 21, Senna 94. Your number 5, chaps. Give it to me. Anyone? I am gonna go. Oh, it's hard now, chaps. I don't know.
Well, I'll throw my hat in the ring here and I'll say Suzuka. No, sorry, not Suzuka. Interlagos 91. Like, that was a pretty damn big outpouring of emotions.
Oh, you want that on there as well? Bloody Nora, Josh, you're adding to the pot. Are we including, what are we taking off then, chap? Because we've got our list of 5. Senna 94, Abu Dhabi 21, Silverstone 24, Lewis 2020, Lewis 2008. Which one of those are we knocking off, Josh? Proposing to knock off for your Interlagos 91? One of the Lewis ones, though.
Enforce force manure and just make it a top 6.
Oh, he's breaking the rules out here. You'd never know he's a Formula One fan.
Hey, it's Formula One. It wouldn't be Formula One chat if we weren't breaking rules.
You've got to bend and break the rules.
The catering budget is very fruitful here.
Okay. All right, cool. So we've got ourselves a top 6 courtesy of the goatiest F1 YouTuber to have ever goated. Go on then, chaps. We need to decide an order. Your number 6, you just made. Josh has made it a lot harder now with that. In fact, no, he hasn't. I'm going with Interlagos 91 as 6. Can we concur? Bang. Josh is happy.
Yeah, I'd go with that. Yeah, because I think when you think of Senna, you think of that. But I think I know where the other Senna moment's probably going to go. So you could do that.
Fine.
Possibly.
Right. But then it feels awful, doesn't it? That like our Senna memory higher up on this list is not a happy one.
It's not we don't prejudice for positivity or negativity here, so it's the dimensions and parameters of the consequence rather than negative or positivity, I would argue. But I see where you're going with that, Shez. But for an easy life, I am vetoing you, sir.
I love this veto. It's just are we going on recency bias a little bit?
We've established we've established consensus here, sir. You are in the minority here, Shez. Let's move on swiftly. Number 5 of Lewis 2008, Lewis 2020, Lewis 2024, Silverstone, Abu Dhabi, Senna 94. Which one is number 5, chaps?
I'd go Abu Dhabi, I would say.
Oh my gosh.
But you guys may disagree. I just think, given the kind of, not vibe, but kind of way we've cultivated this list, I think Abu Dhabi brought out the full range of emotions and not always necessarily in the best way. Certainly from me, I think my house can still hear the resound, the echoes of my swear words when that was going on.
I'm not having that, Baxty. I'll be honest with you. There's no.
I will go that or
20
or Lewis 2020. I would say, because I think there's more emotional championship wins there for him on this list already. So okay, let's go. Let me propose this: Lewis 2020 at 5.
I'd agree with that.
Abu Dhabi 4. I would say. I don't think I can put it above the other. Could you put it above Silverstone? Maybe, but
That's the only one that I'd have to argue should be above Abu Dhabi 2021 is Silverstone 2024.
Is this chap mad? Silverstone 24 is more evocative than was Abu Dhabi 2021.
Yeah, because like again,
What?
one feeds the other. Like you wouldn't have, as Josh said so eloquently, you wouldn't have the level of happiness that you did for Silverstone 2024 if Abu Dhabi 2021 hadn't happened. So I think they're part of the same package.
Oh, that one, that the first fathered the second doesn't mean. Do you know what I mean? Doesn't mean that the first wasn't more. Listen, Abu Dhabi is much more impactful than.
Yeah, impactful. But I'm thinking about like how did I actually feel in the moment when that happened, right? And Silverstone 2024, I didn't even have it on my list. Can't believe I forgot it. But like I still, even now, as I'm talking to you, if I think about Lewis's message to Bono over the radio, or I think about Lewis and his dad after, that gets me harder than that came out wrong. That gets me more emotional than
Oh God, Shez.
Let's not. I think.
Is this for children? You're not going to be able to monetize this, aren't you?
I think on account
May I
of.
just jump in quickly here, by the way, about something on the list that we're talking about? So, Turkey 2020. I don't feel as strongly about that as pretty much anything on the list, on the basis that, as we all knew, it was kind of beyond doubt that Lewis was going to win that year. Not that it diminished anything that he did or his achievements or anything like that. It was just like, well, if he wouldn't win the championship in Turkey, he would just win it in the next one. That's sort of what it felt.
I agree.
And, like, yeah, 2020 was a very heavy year in terms of like so many things that were happening socially, I guess. And we talk about the mystique of the black Mercedes and how, oh yeah, in 2020 and 2021, if you saw that thing ranging up behind you with Lewis, that was formidable. But something that gets lost on people is why that car was black in the first place and the message that was meant to bring across. And it seemed that a lot of people forget about that reason.
True.
But yeah, despite all of that leading up to that moment, it was a case of, yeah, let's just watch greatness here. And I do remember that moment. I remember watching that race. It was a crazy one at that. But yeah, again, in Thanos' words, it was just inevitable that Lewis was going to win. It was not in any way a shock like Silverstone 2024, where again, it was just like no chance that he's going to win anything. And all of a sudden, it's like, wow, that's a special moment. So yeah, I mean, but obviously that's the thing. Certain things are emotional for some, more emotional for some people than they are for others.
True.
But that's the great thing about this. The great thing about sports, and all the stories that come with it. But yeah, personally, it didn't really hit on an emotional level for me to see Lewis take that 7th title because, I mean, like I said, for the umpteenth time, it was like, okay, well, he just won it here.
I agree with you. I agree
because it was never in doubt at all.
Convince me that as Josh. Power of veto about to be exercised. I'm switching those around. Josh's Interlagos I'm putting at 5, and Lewis's 2020 I'm putting at 6. I agree with Josh. But for the, like, if you weren't able to hear Lewis over the radio, I don't think that's even a moment, Like, it's a brilliant moment, of course, the 7th record-breaking settings. But does it hit like an Interlagos 91? I don't think so. I'm exercising the power of veto. Go on then, chaps. We've got a number 4 to choose from. Lewis 2008, Silverstone 24. Some heavy hitters here, chaps. Lewis 2008, Silverstone 24, Abu Dhabi 21, and Senna 94. Which one of those is number 4, Shez?
Uh,
I,
right.
I can chime
Probably
in.
it's going to be Silverstone 24, isn't it? It's probably going to be Silverstone 24.
I was
I
going
think.
to say, because the Silverstone 24 is as incredible as that was, I think it hit one driver's fan base
Mm.
massively and a nation massively. But Abu Dhabi was encapsulated everybody. So I would say put Silverstone at 4, Abu Dhabi at 3,
What,
then
Interlagos at 2?
in
No, Interlagos is 5, chaps. So look,
No,
no,
Interlagos 2008
Oh,
at 2.
yeah, I would say so.
I've got to say, I think Abu Dhabi 2021, if you take away our feelings about it as Lewis fans, in terms of pure impact emotionally, that has to be higher than Interlagos 2008. Just given that we're still feeling the ramifications of it today.
We're still feeling the ramifications of
Yeah, but
2008 a little bit, aren't we?
that is a footnote in this epic season.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think 2008 is number 3. Josh, to that you say what, sir? Between 2008, we got 2008, Interlagos, Abu Dhabi 21, and Senna 94 still on the list. Which one of those is at number 3?
Well, my consensus is that this is too much math for me. You guys can,
Mate, tell me about it.
You guys can go about this list fine, because I think on certain days when you reflect on these, it can change on the fly. These moments. This is an easy cop out. I guess that guy's right. I could be a good silver-tongued politician. Just weasel my way out of these situations.
Sitting on the fence.
Like it's so it looks like the consensus here is Imola 94 is going to get number 1, isn't it?
So that's where my play is going.
It has to be.
I'm saying yes to whatever the host says, so I can get Imola 94 at number 1.
All right, I'm just doing my thing where I get the beginning and the end before I actually understand what the crux of the story is, because I'm that difficult of human being. Imola first. Something number 5 I wasn't paying attention.
No, don't worry. I'll read it out to you.
But yeah, okay.
So Lewis 2020 in 6th, Interlagos 1991, Senna in 5th. 4th, we've got Silverstone 2024. Lewis is coming back. Lewis 2008, Interlagos is number 3, and then we've just got to choose between. So you lot want Senna 94 to go top. I would argue. I would argue in poor taste that you guys are being, look, evocative. Nothing tops Abu Dhabi 2021, chap. It just does. I know it's Senna passing, and I know it's super tragic, and I know he's the greatest peddler that we've ever seen, and it was an unexpected passing, and people at the time didn't die in F1 and all that other stuff. I understand it. It is significant. Impact, it's greater. Emotion, though, I know there's I'm leaning into my recency bias. Abu Dhabi 2021. I think, not poor taste notwithstanding, I think that has to be top, chaps. It's too much.
And there is nothing in F1's history that evokes such visceral emotions as that race did. And I've got a very complex feeling about that race, which is why I don't want to talk about it, because invariably people are gonna be pissed at what I'm gonna say. Even though on both sides I fully understand why they would be feeling the way that they do. It's dangerous territory. I'm wading into waters that I know are gonna drown me here. But at the same time, it's because of that.
That's the point.
that you gotta put it up there, because it's like, to talk about Abu Dhabi is, you're dabbling in some very, very, very harsh waters here.
I will say this for Abu Dhabi, and it's actually leaning on something that Josh said earlier, is that when we go to Imola, we think of Senna. It's just automatically there. And I think we are now at the point with Abu Dhabi that when we get there, you think of that race. Well, when you think of Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, you know, I mean, okay, there've not been many banger Abu Dhabi Grand Prix or memorable Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Probably Raikkonen in 2012 and Vettel winning the title in 2010 and some of the title wins that happened there. But one that kind of is probably going to be talked about 50, 60, 70 years down the line when all of us are shuffled off the planet at that point, you're still going to look at 2021 as, well, what the hell was that?
It's more chaps.
And you still look at Senna in 94 in the same way. Like, I didn't. So when I first came across Senna, this is a really weird story. So just indulge me for a couple of seconds. Like, I remember Sky Sports were doing a thing where they were like saying, right, we're going to do like weeks long process where we nominate loads of stars from different sports. One person wins, and then we put all of those together in one. It was like the greatest sportsman thing, and inevitably Muhammad Ali won. But um for the motorsport one, that's when I first came across Senna, and it was the year Lance Armstrong won his last Tour de France, so 2004, I think. That this happened, and and I didn't know who Senna was. Wasn't really watching F1 at that point. I kind of knew that Schumacher existed and Hakkinen and everybody else, and then you learn about this guy and you think, actually, if they say he's the best ahead of somebody like Schumacher, then okay, I need to go and look at this guy and watch him and find out about him, and then you begin to understand the mystique of Senna and his death was an emotional moment for those that watched it, absolutely, but it is an emotion that has carried over for 30 years. And that's why I think it tops Abu Dhabi. And I think it is mostly time because Abu Dhabi was only 3 years ago, whereas this was 30 years ago. And yet we still feel the pain of 30 years ago. As I said earlier, the drivers of today who weren't born when Senna died feel that emotion. They understand it. I think partly because they know the risks that they take every time they sit in a car. And so that for me is why I would put Senna's passing in 94 ahead of Abu Dhabi, just because that emotion has lasted for so long. Like, it's not just impact, but it is the emotion. It is still there.
Oh, mate, you make a good pitch, but I just, it feels like sacrilege and blasphemy for me to put Abu Dhabi above Senna.
Don't do it.
I'm going to do it, chaps. I just feel that way. Abu Dhabi is
Host privilege.
I think we split 2-2 anyway, to be fair. Like, I think we are split down the line on this Abu Dhabi thing, but I just think it's more. There is recency bias in there.
Yeah, massive recency bias.
100%, chap. But
we did this in 30 years' time. You'd be putting Senna number one.
Bull feathers.
Not bull feathers.
Bull feathers, chap. You're wrong, Shezino. Abu Dhabi's more more evocative on so many different.
But we're not talking about evocation. We're talking about emotion, like how it makes you feel.
Well, hang on a sec. Are we? Excuse me with your saloon semantics, sir. What's the delineation between evocative? Is the ability to induce emotion? What are you talking about, Shez?
So which one
is it more evocative than Senna?
Which one creates that emotion? Which then gives you the stronger feeling?
Abu Dhabi, bro.
Really?
100%.
That is chaos in your words.
100%. The way, you know what it is? I think it's the way that you ingest them. Having lived through both of them, I was too young with Senna was in 94. I was only like 1 year old or something. Do you know what I mean? Like
you were 10. I know you were.
Behave yourself.
Oh, exposed.
Shez, see, this is why you're an unreliable narrator, Shez, and I've got to defer to my gut instinct, which tells me that I need to put Abu Dhabi 21. I have exercised chair privilege, and I think Abu Dhabi is going to, listen, it's polemic and it's always going to divide opinion, but that's what we're going with, chaps. We have ourselves a list and we have ourselves consensus, notwithstanding unreliable narrator Shezino, aka the A side. Our list, for the avoidance of doubt, at number 6 we've got Lewis in 2021 winning the 7th, a record breaking or equaling 7th. We have at number 5 Interlagos 1991, Senna winning in 6th gear. At number 4 we have Lewis's comeback story arc, Silverstone 2024. At number 3, we have Lewis again, 2008, Interlagos, Felipe Massa, etc. Winner of the championship for 30 seconds or less. In number 2, we've got Senna, 1994, death, tragedy, era-defining, sport-defining, some would say. And at number 1, we've got the polemic that was Abu Dhabi 2021. Let's go. We have ourselves a list. That's your top 5 most emotional, most evocative moments in F1 history. Do me a favour, if you're watching this on the YouTubes, like, comment and subscribe. If you're listening on a podcasting platform, 5 stars and a follow. Shortly thereafter, go over to this chap at the bottom left hand side of your screen and subscribe to his channel, the goatiest F1 channel, combining humour, F1 insights. You want to go and learn about how good Liam Lawson is, go and check out that chap. You want to go and listen to and understand more about Michel Mouton, Layla Lombardi, et al., then Josh Ravel is the channel that you need to subscribe to. Shortly thereafter, go and check out Baxty B, God tier market leading as always, and go and check out Shez's podcast, the Tired GP podcast, with the legend, the member of Charles Fossey, they call cousin Amar. You guys have been legends. Between now and next time, same time next week, remember to look but never stare.